Hi, I'm Sophia, you're watching Paraligo, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can make a crochet kiss lock purse with a sailor's knot stitch. I will also show you how you can make an oval base and a spiral cord handle, so stay tuned. Supplies list: 1 skein of t-shirt yarn, an 8mm crochet hook, a 6mm crochet hook, a 2.5mm crochet hook, a sew-on circular kiss lock clasp frame, a metal chain shoulder strap, 2 small spring hooks, cotton thread in a color that matches your t-shirt yarn, 4 stitch markers, 2 of which in a separate distinct color, a darning needle, a curved mattress needle that fits the holes of the clasp and the cotton thread, and a pair of scissors. Begin with the 8mm hook and make a slip knot. Wrap the end of the yarn around your index, place your hook on top, twist it around the yarn, yarn over, and pull a loop. Now chain 5 chain stitches. Yarn over and pull a loop 5 times. Make your chains kind of tight. And this was the 5th. Now insert your hook into the second chain from your hook and place a single crochet. Yarn over, pull a loop, yarn over again, and pull through both loops on your hook. Place a stitch marker with a distinct color to mark this first stitch of the round, the first round. Place a single crochet into the following chain. Place 1 more single crochet into the next chain. Now place 3 single crochet into the last chain, into the same chain. Mark the first stitch with a stitch marker of a common color. Now 2 more to go. This is the second. And this is the third. Mark this third stitch with a stitch marker of the common color. Pull the tail to eliminate the hole in the corner. And turn to work at the opposite side of your foundation chain. Now place 2 single crochet into the next 2 stitches. 1, 2. And we've reached the last chain of our foundation. Place 1 final single crochet into this last chain. Mark this last stitch with a stitch marker of the second distinct color. Now remove the stitch marker from the first stitch of the round. Insert your hook and slip stitch. And this was the end of the first round. To start the second round, insert your hook into the post of this first stitch, the same stitch you slip stitched, and place a single crochet. And this was your first waistcoat stitch. Place the stitch marker back into this first stitch of the second round and place one more waistcoat stitch into the same stitch, into the post of the stitch right here. Our foundation was rigid, so it's a bit hard, but it will get much easier as you go. Now place 2 waistcoat stitches into the next following stitches. This is the post where we insert to place a waistcoat stitch, this little V to the front of the stitch. 1, 2. As you can see, we reached the next stitch marker. Remove it and place an increase, which means 2 waistcoat stitches into the same stitch, always working into the post of the stitch. 1. Place the stitch marker back into this first stitch of the increase. And 1 more waistcoat stitch into the same stitch. 2. And this was our first increase. Now place an increase into the next stitch, which means 2 stitches placed into the same stitch, in this case waistcoat stitches. 1, 2. Remove the next stitch marker and place 1 more increase. Place the stitch marker back into the second stitch of the increase. And place 2 waistcoat stitches into the next 2 stitches, 1 into each stitch. And with that, we reached the last stitch marker. Remove it and place an increase. Put the stitch marker back into the first stitch of the increase. Now place 1 more increase into the last stitch of the round. This is the first waistcoat stitch, and the second waistcoat stitch of this increase, we're going to do it slightly different. So insert your hook into the post, yarn over, pull a loop, and then remove the stitch marker that marked the first stitch of the round and insert into the back loop of this first stitch. Then yarn over and pull through all loops on your hook, like a slip stitch. And this is how we join the end to the beginning of our round. To move to the third round, place a waistcoat stitch into the post of the same stitch, which was the first stitch of the previous round. Here, into the little V. Might be a bit tricky, but it's doable. Place the stitch marker back into this first stitch of the third round and place an increase into the next stitch. This was the first stitch of the increase, and this is the second. Now place 2 waistcoat stitches into the next 2 stitches, 1 into each stitch. Remove the stitch marker and place 1 waistcoat stitch. And put the stitch marker back. Place an increase into the next stitch. Place 1 waistcoat stitch into the next stitch and an increase into the following. Place 1 waistcoat stitch into the next stitch and an increase into the following. Remove the stitch marker. And place the stitch marker back into the second waistcoat stitch of the increase. Place 2 waistcoat stitches into the next 2 stitches. Remove the stitch marker and place 1 waistcoat stitch. Place the stitch marker back and place an increase into the following stitch. Place 1 waistcoat stitch into the next stitch and an increase into the following. Place the first waistcoat stitch of the increase normally and place the second stitch of the increase joined to the first stitch of the round. Insert into the post, yarn over, pull a loop, remove the marker, insert into the back loop of the first stitch of the third round, yarn over and pull through all loops on your hook, as in a slip stitch. And this is how we join. To begin the fourth round, place an increase into this first stitch. And of course, mark the first stitch of this new round, the first stitch of the increase. Now place 4 waistcoat stitches into the next 4 stitches, 1 into each stitch. remove the stitch marker and place an increase. Place the marker back into the first stitch of the increase. Place 2 waistcoat stitches into the next 2 stitches and an increase into the following. And increase into the next. Place 2 waistcoat stitches into the next 2 stitches and an increase into the following. Place 4 waistcoat stitches into the next 4 stitches. So let's see where we are. We have 6 more stitches to finish the 4th round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So remove the stitch marker and place an increase. Place the marker back into the first stitch of the increase. 1 more stitch. And now place 2 waistcoat stitches into the next 2 stitches and an increase into the following. Place 2 waistcoat stitches into the next 2 stitches. Join the last of these 2 stitches to the beginning of the round. Insert into the post of the last stitch, yarn over, pull a loop, remove the stitch marker, insert into the back loop of this first stitch, yarn over and pull through all loops on your hook. To begin the 5th round, place a waistcoat stitch into this first stitch. And as always, place the stitch marker back and place 1 waistcoat stitch into the next stitch. Place an increase into the next stitch. Place 3 waistcoat stitches into the next 3 stitches. Remove the marker and place a waistcoat stitch. Put the marker back and place one more waistcoat stitch into the next stitch. Place an increase into the next stitch and 3 waistcoat stitches into the next 3 stitches. This was the increase, and 3 waistcoat stitches into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Place an increase into the next stitch and 3 waistcoat stitches into the next 3 stitches. And this was the third. Place an increase into the next stitch. Remove the stitch marker and place a waistcoat stitch. Put the stitch marker back and place 2 waistcoat stitches into the next 2 stitches. Remove the stitch marker and place a waistcoat stitch. Put the marker back and place a waistcoat stitch into the next stitch and an increase in the following. Place 3 waistcoat stitches into the next 3 stitches. Place an increase into the next stitch. Place a waistcoat stitch into the last stitch and join in the usual way. And this was the end of the 5th round. To start the 6th round, place an increase into the same stitch. Put the marker back into the first stitch of the round and complete the increase. Place 6 waistcoat stitches into the next 6 stitches. 1 into each stitch. Five and 6. Remove the stitch marker and place an increase. Put the stitch marker back into this first stitch of the increase. And now place 4 waistcoat stitches into the next 4 stitches and an increase into the following. This is the second. Third. And the fourth. Time for the increase. And next, place 4 waistcoat stitches into the next 4 stitches and an increase into the following. Place 3 waistcoat stitches into the next 3 stitches. Remove the stitch marker and place a waistcoat stitch. Put the marker back and place 2 waistcoat stitches into the next 2 stitches. Remove the marker and place an increase. Put the marker back into this first stitch of the increase. And place 4 waistcoat stitches into the next stitches and an increase into the following. Place an increase into the next stitch. Place 4 waistcoat stitches into the next 4 stitches and join to the beginning of the round. And with that, we finished the oval base of the bag. Now, to check if your base has the right size, place it on top of your clasp frame. It must have about the same shape and dimensions. Let's move on. Insert your hook into the next stitch and place a normal single crochet on top of the stitch. Mark this first single crochet. Place another single crochet into the next stitch and continue placing regular single crochet, 1 into each stitch until the end of the round. And this was the last stitch of the 7th round, the round of plain single crochet. To begin the next round, remove the stitch marker and place a normal single crochet into the first stitch. Place the marker back to mark this first stitch of the round. And now insert your hook into the 2 vertical bars at the front of the next stitch in here and work a single crochet. Yarn over, pull a loop, yarn over again and pull through both loops on your hook. And this was our first sailor's knot stitch. In the next stitch, place a normal single crochet. In the following, place a sailor's knot. Insert into the 2 vertical bars to the front of the stitch, yarn over, pull a long loop, yarn over again and pull through both loops on your hook. In the next stitch, place a single crochet. In the following, place a sailor's knot. Go under the bars, yarn over and pull a long loop, yarn over again, pull through both loops on your hook. Continue repeating this 2-stitch pattern until the end of the round. This is the end of the round, and our last stitch will be the same as the one we've started with, which was a single crochet, because our round has an odd number of stitches. Now the next stitch will be a sailor's knot. You will insert into the vertical bars, yarn over, pull a loop, yarn over again, and pull through both loops on your hook. And place a stitch marker back into this first stitch of the round. Now where there was a sailor's knot, you will place a single crochet. And vice versa, where there was a single crochet, you will place a sailor's knot. Again, a single crochet into the next stitch where there was a sailor's knot, and a sailor's knot into the next stitch where there was a single crochet. In other words, we reversed the pattern, and you will continue like this with this reversed pattern until the end of the round. Here we are back. This is the last stitch of the round, which again will be the same as the one we've started with. So as you can see, we finished with a sailor's knot and we started with a sailor's knot. To move to the next round, which will be the 10th, 5th if you don't count the base rounds, remove the stitch marker and place a single crochet where there was a sailor's knot. Put the marker back into this first stitch and place a sailor's knot into the next stitch where there used to be a single crochet. In other words, the pattern was reversed again, and this is the way you will continue to work by repeating the previous 2 rounds until you complete a round 21. And here we are at the end of the 21st round, last stitch. Remove the stitch marker and place a final single crochet into the next stitch. Now cut your yarn, fasten off, and thread your tail to your darning needle. Insert your needle into the next but one stitch. And then insert into the back loop of your last stitch of the round. Weave the tail into the reversed side of the stitches and make sure to tie a knot before you cut the excess. Next, use the 2.5mm hook to weave in the tail of the bottom. Let's move on to the handle. Take the 6mm hook and make a magic ring. Wrap the end of your yarn around your two fingers, form an X, twist your hand, insert your hook under the right strand, grab the left strand, yarn over, pull a loop, and chain 1. I hope this wasn't too fast. Now place 3 single crochet into the magic ring. 1, 2, 3. Pull the tail to close the ring, but not too tight. Now insert your hook into the back loop of your first stitch and place a single crochet. Back loop only. Repeat into the second stitch, the second single crochet of the magic ring. Back loop only again. Repeat into the third stitch, but before that I will pull the tail to make my cord more rigid. By doing that, the front side of my work will sort of get sucked in. So in case you got kind of lost, our loop is right here, the third loop, where we will insert and place our third single crochet. So what you're actually facing now is the reverse side of your stitches. And this here is the horizontal bar behind your second single crochet. Between this horizontal bar and the previous one, there is this slanting oblique bar, this fellow right here, which is where you will insert your hook to place all your stitches from now on. So insert your hook into the slanting bar and place a single crochet. To trace the next one, just search for the horizontal bars. This one and this one. In between is our slanting bar, right here. So this is where you will insert your hook to place the next single crochet. Repeat into the next slanting bar. See, it's starting to get easier to find. And into the next one, this one right here. And this is all you are going to do until your cord reaches the desirable length, which is about 20 to 25 centimeters. Almost finished. And this is what your cord will look like after a few rounds. Now cut your yarn and fasten off. Thread your tail to your darning needle and weave it into the interior of the cord. Again, make sure to tie a knot or two before you cut the excess. To finish your bag handle, take one of your spring hooks, open it, and insert it under a couple of stitches at one end of your cord. Repeat at the other end. And your bag handle is ready. The next step is to sew our clasp to the bag. And to do that, thread your cotton thread to your curved needle. Mount your thread with a few stitches to the middle of the front part of your bag. And insert your needle into the middle hole of the front part of your frame from the back. Bring it out. And pull your thread to bring the frame on top of your bag. Then insert your needle into the previous hole and bring it down to the inside of the frame. Pull your thread. Insert your hook into the nearest front loop of the last round of your bag and bring it up. Pull your thread to tighten your stitch. Insert your hook near the same spot and bring it up one stitch space forward and return to the first hole to repeat the stitch. Insert your needle into the next front loop and bring it up one stitch space forward. And then insert into the next hole of your frame and bring it up. Insert into the previous hole and bring your needle down to the interior of the frame. right there into the previous hole. Pull your thread and insert into the nearest front loop and bring it up and through the same exit hole. And return to the previous hole to work the same stitch twice. What we do is simple backstitch. Again, insert into the front loop and bring your needle up one stitch space forward, and then insert your needle into the next exit hole from the back and bring it up. Then insert into the previous hole and bring your needle down and through the nearest loop of your bag. And again, go down into the front loop and come up one stitch space forward and bring your needle up through the same exit hole to repeat the same stitch. This is how you will continue backstitching your clasp to your bag, working from left to right. Double stitches are optional. So if this is too much for you and you feel confident with the strength of your thread, do each stitch only one time. When you reach the joint of the frame, secure your thread and cut it. Start from the beginning at the other side of the frame. The same applies for the second joint of the frame as well. When you complete your last stitch, here we are, just one more to go. Secure and cut your thread. Now all that's left is to attach the handle. And the chain. And it's ready. My beloved viewers, thank you so much for staying. If you liked what you watched, give us a thumbs up, make a comment and share. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe and click on the bell to get noticed for new videos. Visit paraligo.com for written instructions of this bag and many more. Till next time, take care. Mwah.